Welcome to the Stewardship Podcast, where on today's episode, Grant will discuss inflation and a revolutionary new way to buy a house. Grant, take it away.
Okay, everyone, this episode is a little bit different. Instead of all the pre-production work and all the other editing that typically goes into our Stewardship Podcast episodes, this one is impromptu. I'm just recording this off the cuff because we wanted to get this out as soon as possible. This is relevant. There's a pain point as it relates to this word stewardship that so many of us are dealing with. There's a reality. Inflation is a thing. And our dollar does not go as far as it used to. Many of you guys are feeling that, not just at the gas pump, which is a kind of a relevant thing that's happening on social media, but probably at the grocery store as well. And some of you may be reeling, wondering, okay, what do we do? How do we handle this? What are some things that we can do to be a good steward of this situation? When financial adversity hits us, when financial adversity comes that we didn't necessarily know was coming, how do we fix this? How can we best be a good steward of our finances in the midst of an inflationary period like we're dealing with now? So in this podcast, I'm going to give some steps that you can follow to help with your situation, but also help with some mindset and some planning stuff so that when this happens again, you're going to be better prepared. All right, so let's start with the initial steps of what we can do now. If you guys have done your best at being in control of your expenses, you likely have an idea of what your expenses are. And if you don't have an idea of what your expenses are, you can quickly look at your bank statements over the last 3 months and see what those expenses are. What are your bills? What are the expenses that are recurring on your bank statement? What are the expenses that are recurring that you know of because you have control over them? And then determine, are some of these expenses that we absolutely need? What adjustments can you make? I've done this. I've looked at my expenses. I've looked at my budget, and I have already made some adjustments because of where inflation is at. And having control over your expenses, knowing what your recurring expenses are, allow you to make these adjustments just a little bit easier. And that's important. Another thing is understanding where your savings is at. If you've listened to our podcast before, you know that we strongly recommend making sure that every time you get money, you give a portion of it, you save a portion of it, and then you determine how to live off of the rest. And giving first allows your income to have purpose, so it's not just this mindless job that you continually go to, but that when you do get income, it adds purpose to the income you have because the first thing you do with it is something philanthropic, something serving, something giving, something outside of yourself. And the same is true after you give. You want to make sure that you are saving, and the reason why you save is for moments like this. We don't know when financial hardships will happen, but we know they will happen. I'm going to say that again. We don't know when financial hardships will happen, but we absolutely 100% know that financial hardships will happen. And the best thing that we can do is to make sure we're saving to prepare for those things. So it doesn't matter if you're driving down the road and you all of a sudden get a flat in your tire and you have to pay for new tires, which you weren't necessarily expecting in that month's cash flow. If you saved, it's okay. You can take from the savings and you're ready for it. Well, this inflationary period might require you to live off of savings or to add into your cash flow from savings over an extended period of time until you can get things worked out. So if you saved, don't be scared using some of that savings as you move forward. Now, let's say you're in a situation where, okay, we have our expenses. We've made some of those adjustments. Okay, we've got this savings, and we're going to add from our savings into our income and into our cash flow. Great, that's all well and good, but that's not sustainable. As inflation continues and as the expenses of things continue to rise, you're going to have to figure out a long-term solution. And the best long-term solution is income. We talked about it many times before. I'll even do kind of posts about it on my social media where I'll say, hey, what's the most valuable thing in your personal income or your personal financial portfolio? And people will say, oh, yeah, you've got to have a budget. You've got to control your expenses, or you got to make sure you're saving. And although those two things, which I've talked about, are important, the answer is income. The most important piece of your personal financial picture is your income. And right now, you have a bigger need than maybe ever before because of inflation to find ways to increase your income. And we've done podcast episodes, even videos and blogs on this exact topic before about how to increase your income. But it essentially boils down to this: find a need and fill it. Every business, everywhere, is serving somebody somewhere. The company that you work for is serving somebody somewhere through some product or service. And the more needs that you're able to fill for your employer, or the more needs in the community that you're able to fill for the business that you own, the more income you're able to earn. So put yourself in the shoes of your employer. What problems do they have? What issues do they have? What needs do they have? And can you fill them? Can you jump in and start filling them now? Or can you create a way of filling them uniquely and propose that to your employer, and potentially that will earn more income? Again, at the heart of every business is to serve people and to serve them well. Well, maybe you can step up and start serving in a unique way. Maybe you can serve even more selflessly, or with even more energy or effort, or with maybe a little bit more innovation or humility, and that will allow you to earn more income. And the bottom line, sometimes it just comes down to asking your employer, asking your boss, your manager, hey, I'm ready to do more. I'm ready to fill more needs. So if you have more needs anywhere within this business, I'm ready to fill those needs so that I can earn more income. I'm happy to do it. I'm ready, I'm willing, and I'm able. Just that conversation alone. Income is a big deal. And trying to find more ways to increase your income is super important. And rather than talking about any side hustles or doing Uber Eats or doing selling things at garage sales or whatever else, you can go to Dave Ramsey for some of that advice. But the advice that I want to give comes down to finding needs and filling it. And if you genuinely look at your employer as a business that is filling needs of people in the community through some product or service, look at the needs of the customers, those people that are having those needs filled through the business, but also look at the needs of the employer that you're working for and see if there's ways that you can uniquely fill those needs in more innovative ways or more efficient ways. Efficiency is a great word. If you can find ways to solve needs more efficiently, it'll cost your employer less money, which will then earn you the right to potentially earn more money. And income is a big deal. And the best way to earn income is to serve people selflessly. And if you insert that into what you're doing with your job and in your role, it'll help a lot. All right, so what are some of the steps that we've talked about? Get control of your expenses. Look at your expenses, the ones that are recurring. See which ones are absolutely needed or what adjustments you can make and potentially not have some of those expenses anymore. Go ahead and look at your savings. You're likely going to need to start putting from your savings into your cash flow over the next couple of months to help kind of make ends meet. But that's not necessarily sustainable. To outpace inflation, one of the best things we can do is to continually have this thing within us where year in and year out, we're working really hard to make sure that we are earning more income. If you're able to get a raise or increase your income on an annual basis that outpaces inflation, sure, it's tough to do in tough inflationary periods like this, but if you're able to increase your income at normal rates of inflation, which are around 3%-ish, that's a really great focus to have in your personal financial goals, to outpace inflation with your income. And the best way to do that is to serve, and to serve well, and to serve with humility. All right, so those are 3 steps that you can do to take action on right now to help give some relief with this inflation thing. And those will give relief immediately, and some will give relief in the long term. Now, The other thing that I want to talk about as it pertains to inflation is our mindset. It's super easy to get upset at our administration, to get upset at the situation we're in, and to kind of get into a victim mentality, woe is me scenario. And sure, although some of those things may be true, it's not super helpful at all. And one of the things that I love to do in the midst of adversity is to ask this question: what does this make possible? And every single one of the quote unquote successes or financial breakthroughs I've ever had, it came through some weird economic times or weird adversity that I had to overcome. And that overcoming all happened because I asked this question: what does this make possible? So here's the example. I'll walk you through it right now with inflation. Prices are way up. So what does that make possible? Well, if we think about inflation, what else did inflate? If you're a homeowner, your home value also increased and inflated. There's a statistic that's out now that says the average American earned more money on their home value in 2021 than they did on their W-2. Think about that. Home values increased last year more than the average American's annual income. That's amazing. So, what does this make possible? If things inflated, so did the value of my home. What can I do with that? Most of us, if you're a homeowner, are sitting on a crazy amount of equity. If you bought your home for $400,000, there's a very good chance it's worth $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. It could be worth a lot more. And you may now only owe about $350,000, but have $350,000 also in equity. So what can you do with that equity? Well, you can get a home equity line of credit. I got one. I worked with our home loan advisors at Stewardship. I worked with Jared, and I got a home equity line of credit on my home. The interest rate was amazing. It allows me to draw from that equity and put that equity to use so that if I want to start another business, if I want to do another thing, if I see another need in the community and I want to fill it to earn more income, I have capital that I can draw from to go do that and earn more income. I can use this home equity line of credit to help me if my savings is a little bit low, or maybe I feel like I'm behind in my investments or my retirement or in my savings goals. I can use some of that home equity line of credit to go in that direction if I want. The reality of it is the equity that's in your home is useless unless you tap into it. And a home equity line of credit is something I can access. It's a tool that I can use to answer that question of what does this make possible? Lots of inflation. Well, so did my home value inflate. And I'm going to use some of that home value inflation as more peace and security for extra savings, but also to go create more income opportunities with different investment opportunities, different business opportunities. The other thing is this program that we have created called Stewardship One Move. Some of you guys are listening to this and inflation, yeah, it stinks and it hurts, but it's really not that bad. And it's because you've done well financially, you've created some margin, and sure, you might have to make some adjustments, but you're not stressing out or freaking out. And some of you might even be asking yourself, wow, we really kind of like our home, but we would like to purchase another home. The problem is when you think about buying another home while trying to sell your current home, you think about all the stress. All the stress in trying to sell your home while you're still living in it, so that when people are coming to check the house out, you have to, on a moment's notice, leave the house with your kids and your pets and figure out what to do with all that, making sure your house is clean. That hustle nobody likes. You have to try and sell your home first because you need the money from your current home for the down payment on the next home. And then when you sell your other home, the current home you're living in first, well, before you buy your next home, you have to figure out a place to live, and you might have to store stuff in storage. And sure, you might be able to live with your in-laws, but that's not super exciting. And even if you do live in an Airbnb or a hotel or something like that temporarily, you're still having to move twice, and that's not a ton of fun either. Well, the Stewardship One Move allows you to buy your next home without having to sell your current home first. And the way it works is through what does this make possible? this inflation in home values. We give you access to the equity that you have in your current home. We give you access to that early. And with that early access, you can go put offers in on your next home, buy your next home, while still living in your current home. And we do this with very specialized contracts, our specialized relationships, and even capital that we have set aside so that you can buy your next home without having to worry about qualifying for 2 house payments. We've found a way to do this that allows you to ignore the house payment on your current home. So you get to live in your current home, stay there comfortably, qualify on a new home, and still have access to the down payment money that you would need from your current home. So we give you early access to equity for down payment. We allow you to qualify for the new home because we have some specialized underwriting for this. And that early access to that money allows you to not only have money for down payment, but you can use that money for whatever you want. So if you wanted to do some upgrades to the new home that you're buying and paint and carpet and floor, you can do all that without trying to live in it and while the dust is being kicked up. You stay comfortably in your current home, do all the upgrades to your next home, and when the upgrades are done, then you can move in. And after you've moved in to your new home, that's when you can work to sell your current home. And this is a whole brand new product that we are launching and have launched, all because we're answering this question, what does this make possible? So as we answer this question for you guys, yes, inflation stinks. And there's things that we can do to help with that as it pertains to our expenses and accessing some savings and trying to earn more income. But if you're a homeowner, inflation has also inflated the value of your current home, which allows for a couple of things to happen. You can access equity through a home equity line of credit to do things like giving more security, having a little bit more money in savings, or taking advantage of other investment or income opportunities. That's for people who want to stay in your current home. But maybe you want to buy another home. Well, what does this make possible? This makes possible the ability to go buy another home. Through the Stewardship One Move program, you can get early access to your current home's equity without having to sell it and go buy a new home, set up new roots in a new neighborhood, maybe that neighborhood you've always wanted to be in, or in different walls in a bigger home that you've always needed because your family is growing. Or maybe you wanted to combine homes and have a house with a guest house in the back for your in-laws, or whatever that transition looks like for you. You can make that transition happen now easier than ever before because you have inflation. You have inflated equity in your current home's value that allows you to make this transaction, make this transition happen. Well, guys, I hope this episode was helpful to you. Again, not super edited. I literally just hit record, did my best to come in and answer 3 ways that you can figure out what to do about inflation now, but also help with that mindset of what does this make possible and how can you answer that question now in an inflationary period. If you're interested in getting a line of credit, if you're interested in looking at Stewardship One Move to see if this is something that you would want to do, you can go to stewardship.pro/OneMove. That's stewardship.pro/OneMove. And you can learn more about the OneMove program. We have several videos and even a calculator and other things there that can help you understand more about it. And as always, you can click the blue schedule appointment button that's on our website to schedule an appointment with one of our wise and loving home loan advisors that can talk to you about the OneMove program and even talk to you about a home equity line of credit if you don't want to move, but you just want access to that line of credit. This has been a huge thing for me in my life whenever there's adversity, especially adversity that I'm not seeing coming. I just ask the question, okay, well, what does this make possible? Change my mindset. Instead of focusing on the problem, look at the problem and see, okay, well, what opportunities are there now because of this problem? What good things are happening as a result of this? And with inflation, some things have inflated. And if you're a homeowner, some good inflation has happened to your home's value. And now you can use that. That's powerful. You can use it for a transition in your home life to another home, or you can use it to access equity and do some other investments, add more to your savings and add some security, which is a valuable thing. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this kind of quick, shorter episode without a whole lot of production. And hopefully you guys found value in these steps and this new mindset and even this new program that we've launched at Stewardship. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.